What up, Cooks? It's your boy, The Hater, and this is a personal favorite video of mine that I really wanted to make, right? I couldn't wait to get back to making videos so I can make this video. And this video is about something that I believe is really not talked about long enough, and that is the importance of wrestling tropes and how they advance the storyline. Now, some tropes are bad, right? For example, one trope that sucks is the bad guy always running away from the good guy and typically walking backwards up the ramp as he points and talks trash to the good guy. Every bad guy does this, but there are some tropes that are necessary, right? Some tropes are necessary and we have to talk about them. Now, first, I will talk about the necessary tropes, and then maybe in another video, I'll talk about some more bad tropes. The example that I gave of a bad trope was just there to explain to you what I mean when I say tropes, right? Because tropes is a bit vague, and quite frankly, some people don't know what the word trope means. So here I am, ready to educate. Now, some important tropes that push wrestling forward. I'm going to focus on tropes that we don't see anymore, right? But I'm going to talk about some other ones that we do see, right? The important trope, right? This one is very present in New Japan and other wrestling companies like that. Then the all-important trope of the person who is next in line, right? You need a number one contender. Now, unlike MMA and boxing, number one contender in wrestling has different connotations, right? So, for example, someone could be wrestling for the world title, and there can be another number one contender, right? This happens all the time. So, you might have at, I don't know, Backlash, well, not Backlash, let's say Fastlane, right? Let's say Great Balls of Fire. At Great Balls of Fire, you might have, I don't know, Roman Reigns versus Carlito, let's say, right? Whatever, right? That's the match. It's booked. It's going to happen. It's been advertised, right? Then 2 Raws before that, you might have a number one contenders match, right? Now, this number one contender doesn't replace Carlito. They're just the next in line, right? In New Japan, this is done in a different way where, like, after the match happens, someone else comes out and says, I'm next in line. But the point is, in order to build successful storylines, you need the next in line. You don't just need the person who's champion and the other person that's challenging them. You need the next in line, at least conceptually, right? We don't need to know who that person is always, right? But it needs to be at least hinted at, right? So we knew, for example, that there was a point where, Batista was next in line, right? Triple H was out there wrestling against, like, I don't know, Benoit and, like, Orton and Kane and, having his title reign, having, like, one of his big title reigns, right? But we knew that next in line was Batista, right? The hints were there. It was clear that he was going to win the Rumble. And then when he won the Rumble, then we knew for a fact, right? John Cena being the next in line when JBL was champion, right? You could feel it, right? You could feel from the beginning of JBL's title reign when Cena was getting over and Kurt Angle did that promo where he was like, the number one contender will be John. And then John Cena gets all excited and he's like, Bradshaw Layfield. Right? From that point, you knew JBL is going to have a nice long title reign and it's going to be Cena, it seems like, that's going to take it, right? Once JBL became champion, because I don't think anybody expected that to happen, right? We know these things. We know who is next in line by virtue of the way that wrestling is presented. Now, this art has been lost. Now, to be fair, it's been lost because people like Roman Reigns just don't come around anymore. MJF doesn't really wrestle anymore. So we don't know who the next in line is. It could be Samoa Joe because Adam Cole got injured. Shit happens, right? But it needs to come back. It's a very important trope. Now, the second trope, the most important trope, in my opinion, that needs to happen, but that does not happen very much, right? Motivations. What are the motivations of the challenger or the 2 wrestlers wrestling, right? In other words, why are they fighting? This is crucial to telling a story, right? The why is the most important part of the story, cuckolds, right? The most important trope is that which makes wrestling wrestling, right? Why is this happening? This is something that we don't really have anymore. Now it's a bunch of vague shit like, I have to finish my story. Oh, I need to finish my destiny. Oh, like the comeback must be great. Like all this nonsense. I need to step out of your shadow. Like, shut up, Come up with better ideas. But if I had to choose one trope that trumps all the tropes, personally, right? It's the trope of attacking the champion, right? Typically this happens from heels to faces. It is amazing how important this trope is and how often it used to be used and how infrequently it's used today. A great example would be Samoa Joe came out to gloat for no reason about being champion. he was interrupted, and he kind of interrupted Adam Cole, who threatened him. Now, that's fine. Adam Cole has a bum leg, so Adam Cole is not going to attack Samoa Joe, even though he could, because he has 5 other guys or whatever to attack and destroy him, right? One of them being Wardlow, who like was competing against him with Samoa Joe. Like they were equals, right? They were equals, and now Wardlow's going to be the guy that Samoa Joe runs through to get to Adam Cole. But whatever, it is what it is. That's just a downfall of Wardlow, another video, another time. Beyond that, beyond the Wardlow situation, right, and the other people attacking him, Swerve Strickland comes out, Hangman Page comes out, and I think someone else comes out too, I could be wrong. And all they do is talk. How come one of them doesn't just bash Samoa Joe in the head with a chair? Now, why would they do that? Number one, that's how you become number one contender in wrestling. You have to beat up the champ, and then the champ, in his anger, prematurely agrees to a match. Typically, agreeing even to unfavorable stipulations just to, quote-unquote, get his hands around the bad guy, right? This is a wrestling trope that is predicated upon someone attacking someone from behind, backstage, during a segment, it doesn't matter, right? But this doesn't happen anymore. Now, all they do is talk and they agree to have a match, right? Back in the day, every wrestling show would end with a beating or a brawl, right? And some wrestling days, you were happy because The Rock would get the upper hand on Triple H and layeth the smacketh down on Triple H. And as a child, some days you were upset because DX would come in, they would low blow The Rock, X-Pac would hit the X Factor, Triple H would hit the pedigree, and then he would look at The Rock with his hair all wet, flex his bicep and point to him and say, "You're not the game, I'm the game." And then he would get up and hold his title over The Rock's dead body as he would play the DX music, right? Or the Triple H music. That's what wrestling is supposed to be. Wrestling is not Samoa Joe's like, "I'm the champion, and I knew I would be the champion." And then someone else comes out, Swerve Strickland comes out, and he's like, "Yeah, but I want to be the champion." And then that's it. And then nothing happens. Great. What do we learn here? That Isaiah Swerve Scott wants to be the champion? I am assuming, I'm watching the show and operating on the assumption that every wrestler on the show wants to be the champion, right? Apparently I was wrong. I thought every wrestler in this company wanted to be the champion. But in fact, the truth is that they don't, right? Only certain wrestlers want to be the champion, and other wrestlers are pretty much content with being nobodies, right? So that's what you're telling me when someone comes out and says, "I want to be the champion," right? It's much more effective for someone to come out and say, "I want to be the champion," and then Triple H says, "You'll never be the champion, I'm the champion." And then that person either beats up Triple H or talks about Triple H's wife, right? Nowadays, even the insults are like just stupid, right? They're like, "Oh yeah, you got lucky." The guy's like, "No, I didn't." And the person's like, "Yeah, you got lucky." And then the fans are like, "Oh," like the fans will react to anything, like even the dumbest things in the world. The fans will just do as they're told. Like a good example of this would be when what's his face, Ricky Starks was completely buried by Edge on the mic. He was like, "I think you've lost your edge," and the whole fan base is like, "Oh," it's like no. When he said, "I think you lost your edge," or whatever he said when he used the word edge, everyone sort of just booed, right? Unironically, booed at how bad of a statement that is, how bad of a promo that is. That's neither here nor there. This is what I'm talking about. These situations in wrestling that call for these tropes are few and far in between. When they happen, they're still special, right? Another trope that I personally like, that I think needs to be mentioned, revenge. The revenge trope. Luckily, this is one that still exists, right? Wrestlers are vengeful people, and they will go after someone to get their revenge. I think that's great. Keep doing that. That's a good move, in my opinion, right? But that's where the buck stops, right? We have to have revenge, and we have to have all these other tropes in order to keep the storylines going, right? Tropes are a necessary element of storylines, right? Now, and when I say tropes, I'm not saying it needs to be the same way every time, right? You can change this up, right? For example, the motivations for revenge might be because someone stole your title, someone beat you for your title, someone slept with your wife, someone attacked your best friend, like you have a split personality disorder, who knows, who cares, right? The point is, these are the things that make wrestling happen and that move wrestling forward. And with that being said, Cucks, that's all I got to say to you in this video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, and otherwise, go and fuck yourself.